Hi, ladies. I'm so glad you joined today. This is Judy. We're here with Encouraging Conversations, and where we're just talking about some unique topics that might or might not be in your everyday discussions, but I think they impact all people. So today we have Crystal with us, who is an author, Jane, who's a poet, but I'll let them share a little more about themselves as they desire. So, how about you, Crystal?
Yeah, thank you for having me back, Judy. I enjoyed our time last week. Um, as Judy said, I am an author, have 4 kids and 2 grandkids, and live in Tennessee at the moment, and just enjoying connecting with Judy and Jane today to discuss some things. So, looking forward to it.
Yeah. Hello, and I'm Jane, and I'm in the Portland, Oregon area, and have worked with Judy on just encouraging isolated leaders in whatever creative ways we could come up with. So it's fun to practice new ways of encouraging folks who've been waiting to hear from just some friendly voices since we've gone through a time of not easily connecting with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a wide variety of ways that we can connect nowadays, um, and most important are our words that we speak, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we talked last week a lot about labels, and the weeks previous we were talking about the uniqueness of each person. And I think all people though probably struggle somewhere in life with a label that's kind of defined them in a way that they haven't wanted. And Crystal's book is called Label Breaker. I have it open to a page I wanted to share later, but she also goes through what we're going to kind of talk about more this week. She calls them 12 acts or actions that we can take to kind of break some of those labels off. And the first thing is with overcoming anything is recognizing that it's there, giving it a name, putting it down and saying, I'm going to tackle this and it's going to go.
Yes. For sure, that's the number one act is identification, because I mean sometimes we just sitting there, like I've had quite a few people that have read the book, and some of them even have come to me and like I can't think of any negative things. I'm like, well, that's awesome. But they're like, no, shouldn't I know negative things? And I'm like, not necessarily, but I mean, just recognizing some of the things that we may not realize have been put on us that could be, you know, causing issues is like the first. It is a hard step to do that sometimes for some people. So some people it's easy. It was easy to come up with a long list on me when I was doing it. So good and bad.
All kinds of reasons for labels, though. Some like I've had places where people they've just identified, oh, Judy's the artist, Judy's the artist, Judy's the artist. There's a lot more to Judy than just art.
Is that
And so sometimes it pigeonholes you, keeps you in one little spot when there's a bigger world that, that person really needs to impact.
Yeah.
So I loved how you put some things in here, and I am gonna because um I made some notes from your book. So today I think it might seem more focused on what you wrote. But you talked about how we can turn negatives in life into positives.
yes.
Like I was kind of sharing with Jane before, how often, we might think we're just too meticulous and we're really giving ourselves heartburn. I've done that. But yet it's a good point, to be detail oriented. It's just also being able to give yourself some grace to it, I think.
Yes. Yeah. I think we kind of talked about that a little bit, but um, was resilient, I said last time, was one I wasn't fond of, and another one that I wasn't fond of when I first put it on my list was quiet. And when I was a kid, I was the outgoing one, life of the party, whatever. But as life happens and other labels got applied, that got hidden down in fear and other things that I let be put on top of that. And so everywhere I would go, I'd be like, oh, quiet, Crystal. Oh, you're so quiet. And I was like, oh, I don't want to be quiet. That's not really me. But working through that and taking off, you know, what that quiet word meant, and then actually going and studying the word quiet, what it actually, the meaning of it was. And, you know, that's peaceful. And, you know, you can sit and listen to other people and be serene and this and that. And when I removed the feelings that I had put on quiet and just, you know, came into acceptance of that, what quiet truly was. And I was like, oh, it's okay to be quiet. Like quiet can be a good thing, you know, but that was one of my words that I was like, that God worked through that and changed that what I thought was a negative label to a positive one.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
Jane's being quiet today.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, I found a journal today at lunch. I looked through it a bit from 2008, and I just come back from a family reunion, and I listed out the cousins, you know, that I had hung out with the most as a teenager or younger. And I recognized that some just labeled me as little cousin and really still had me in that box and didn't have any curiosity about who I was now. And then there were a few that just were jewels that you just want to spend as much time with as you can because of how good they are at listening, or that they're more kindred hearts than you even thought. And that was a thing about, we label people and kind of keep them in their slots they were in, and we don't update our memories or give them an opportunity to become who they are in adults. And I have noticed that many cousins find each other again, like in their 60s, and rediscover and start enjoying each other more.
Yes. I found cousins recently that I didn't know growing up at all. And I'm like, man, I wish I would have known.
Yeah.
You know, that's awesome.
Too. One of mine, I did look up in Tennessee, and we just hit it off. And she was always my sister's age, like 5 years older. And if I only I'd known, we would have been buddies. You know?
Right. Oh, that's awesome.
I have mainly guy cousins, so it's a little different, but they're handy. They're very mechanical,
Yeah, that's
car racers, you know. So if I've got questions about that, I can call.
Or if you want to go for a fast drive, huh?
Yeah.
Right.
We had a lot of those in our family, so
That's awesome. I always wanted to be a race car driver, so that's really cool.
oh, okay. I didn't know. There we go.
Right.
Is that on your list?
Well, I don't know if I put that on one of my labels or not. Maybe I should put it as a new one.
So that leads to a point I wanted to bring up too. Is that on your wish list or your hope list?
Right. Yes. I think I will add it. If I don't have it, I'll have to go back and read my labels. But yes.
So I don't remember exactly what page, but you wrote about the word wishing. And using just the definition of a wish, and a wish is generally something that is not going to happen.
Right.
I can't find it quickly. It's
in one of the last chapters, but the definition that I had of wish was to feel or express a strong desire or hope for something that is not easily attainable, to want something that cannot or probably will not happen. Was the definition. So so yeah, we do a lot of wishing them, but I think God can change the wish. I mean, I think there's a difference between wishing and dreaming, and you can have a dream and God can help lead us to fulfill those dreams and not just keep it as an unattainable wish, you know.
That's my art.
Yes.
It really is.
Yes.
I think Jane's seen a bunch of that too, the more I get to know her.
Yeah. I always had the desire to go to Switzerland. And I did manage to remember that, kind of pray into it in the early 2000s. And I got to go in 2011 and I wanted to go back. And I actually got put on a team to go serve some churches and schools there. And it was just by daring to ask, if you're ever going to Switzerland, I'd like to volunteer. And the guy originally said, oh, I only take interns. And then he sends me a text saying, could you be on this flight to Zurich? So it's like, okay. So the Lord answered that wish. But there's wishes really need to be turned into dreams if you're serious about them.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't grow up a one who dared to take action towards dreams. I always thought they're elusive. I thought the most travel I would do in my life would be going to Cedar Point yearly, from Michigan to Sandusky, Ohio. And I didn't imagine other countries or lots of states. Our world has changed where it's easier to jump on a plane.
Right.
Until
Until 2020.
True. Oh, I did go visit Jane in 2020.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right.
But it is. I have been to several countries doing, ministry work, and one which seemed unattainable. I wanted to go to Brazil with Randy Clark because so much happens with his ministry, and then there was just a time where I'm like, okay, I don't know how all the funds are going to be here, but I'm signing up and getting started. So I did that in 2019 before COVID. So that was
Awesome.
a wonderful thing.
Yes. Awesome.
Yeah.
And, I've been a part of a lot of, business networking groups and that kind of stuff. And they all talk about, you make a plan, you put it in the universe, this and that. And as a Christian growing up as a pastor's kid, I was like, oh, the universe, putting out there is like, but then the more you listen, they've gotten that from God. That's God's plan. That's what he tells us, and to, renew our mind and to look to him with the future. And the more I started learning that, it does. Once you kind of set that intention, and then you take some steps and you do what you're doing. It's amazing how those doors open up, and what comes along from that is amazing.
And it doesn't mean it has to change your whole life in one day.
No.
Taking a step.
Yeah.
Like Jane, voicing that, yeah, I'd like to go sometime.
Yeah.
And I said that to someone about Haiti, and then I got a call.
Yeah.
Do you want to go with us now?
Yeah.
Yes. It's amazing. I'm getting tingles thinking about it.
Dare to speak those dreams. That's what we talk about, the power of words in the past several weeks. And daring to speak those, daring to recognize them, because our time here is really pretty limited. A lot of people think it's just work and retire, the kids, family, grandkids, but there's a lot to life, and it's here to be lived. So I'm a big encourager for that.
Yes. I loved that, how we talked last week, how you were talking with people about their dreams. I love that you were doing that. It's awesome.
Well, it was hard in Haiti. I was interviewing people, and no one, I don't know if I talked about this on here or just with someone on this side, but they didn't have dreams. They didn't know how to think bigger. And that really, if you've studied anything about psychology things, it's a poverty mindset.
Yes.
I am stuck. No, you're not.
Yes.
Not unless you want to be.
Yeah.
Which I wanted to be for a lot of years. And then it changed, thankfully.
Well, it can be scary to step out of, we think that's a comfort zone, and we know it. So, to step into the unknown, it can be a little bit scary and to do that. But once you take that step, it's pretty exciting from there. And like you said, it doesn't always happen overnight. Sometimes it can take like Jane said, 11 years before she actually got to, go, but it was still out there and she still did it.
Yeah.
When I moved into my first house, it was in 86, and I wrote just an index card of 10 goals, kind of open-ended, so it wasn't really goals and more like dreams. And 10 years later, I found that card in the drawer. It was like the telling time, exactly 10 years later. And I thought, I wonder if I've done any of those. And I had every single one of them. And they were
That's
all amazing, like get a master's degree or go to travel. Now I've done 50 states, visiting all 50 states. I'm not sure what was on that card, but I do remember the power of writing it down. It's like your brain writes it down and says, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. And then you're in a line and it'll happen.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm going to do that after the call.
Yeah.
I've done a lot, but that's awesome to do it again.
Yeah.
Some new ones.
Right.
We challenge everyone to do that.
Yes.
At the end of the year, I just I'm glad for the extra holiday time. Excuse me. I don't have a large family, so there's not a lot of events to go to and things. So I am glad to just review what the year has been and see what I'd like to see in the future. And so 2020, I started putting in a worksheet and all these columns, this category and that category. And by the end of the year, that was the first time ever. I'd had a loose list before, but this one was more organized. I saw so much get accomplished, so much. So the power of writing that down and putting it in front of you and even speaking with others. So, find a group, find a couple friends, do it together, share with each other, encourage each other on into it. And, how can you take a step towards it?
Exactly.
So I've done
My
that.
third trip to Switzerland was, we did a class called Dream Culture in Zurich. And so an exercise was write down 100 dreams. And I was in my late 50s and I thought I've already met so many, but I thought back into childhood and came up with a whole 100. And then took time once I got home and realized God was working on 42 of them at the same time. That says, thank you for acknowledging this. Yes, let's get on with it.
That's awesome.
And it has given so much life. I use that assignment for my college students I mentor who are just kind of stuck, not sure what they're going to be or what to do, what to study. And even some young moms who are single moms, they just start writing a dream book, jot it down. You don't have to be real detailed. And it has really energized them.
Yes.
You can write as small or large a dream as you want.
I think it brings more hope to recognize that, and to know that I had one time I was working in the garden and I just felt the Lord was speaking to me saying, are you seeing possibilities everywhere? And I'm like, no, I'm not. How can I? And because that was a rough season, but it seems that's a place that really shifted where I do now see possibility everywhere.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, we've done that with our kids when they were littler. We haven't done it for a few years, but as they're older now and some of them are grown, but we used to do the dream boards, where they would, and some of those were more materialistic because they're little, but you would, look through magazines and different things and, cut it out and have fun. And sometimes it's hard. I mean, to think, I was wondering how many people, have a hard time when you say, write 100 dreams, can people are like, I can't, maybe think of that many dreams. But once you sit there and you let your mind just go with God, it's amazing, like what he can bring make alive inside of you again.
I think the prompt was, I think, from Danny Silk originally. It was think of dreams of what to be, to have, and to do.
Yeah.
that was very refreshing because then you're dreaming about your character development as well.
Yes.
So pretty
Yes.
wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah, not just what you'll have, but who you want to be, which your list actually did that too, Crystal.
Mhm.
You were talking about labels, what are some labels you want over your life?
Right.
I do want to be known as an encourager, and in most places I have people just sometimes calling me up or showing up just because they like the peacefulness of my house or my garden area.
Yeah.
And so even if I'm not available, can they hang out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome. Hmm. And they can pull a little bit of weeds while they're in there for you.
I wish, yes.
Like,
Actually, I think the other day one friend did, but he usually comes in and helps me with some of my garden projects too. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
I'm like, how did that get in my waste bin,
Oh, that's a great metaphor, though. You can have them come, like, enjoy the peacefulness of your garden, and it's kind of like removing your old labels. If you're ripping out the weeds and throwing them away, they can attach a word to it and rip it out and throw it away, and you get your garden weeded.
I think that's actually how my garden was created, because I had a lot
Yeah.
of people around, and I'm like, I have to get rid of these and see something good planted. But I'd have something, big, not necessarily extreme traumatic, but something happened, and I would go I would go weed out a section anytime something,
Wow.
traumatic was going on.
Mm.
That's awesome.
So
Literally. Yeah.
Mhm.
it's not always have fun, but
Huh. No, but I'm sure you felt better afterwards, though. And your garden looked prettier. Or grew better food, whichever one you're growing in your garden. Oh.
well, sometimes the weeds just take over, and that's just like labels and thoughts and the
Yes.
analogies, and yeah, you can make up your own parables for sure.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
I almost want to say, Jane, do you have one of your little trail mixes you would like to share today before we close?
I do have one. It's called Discover. Let me pull it up a minute. It has a cute little airplane on it. It says, "These days are well planned. They're mine to discover. God's mystery trips, local and other." And I wrote that after being in a little writers conference, and I read it to a lady on the airplane, and she says, "I think I'll take that if I can." And she wrote it down on her napkin and found out that she was a new widow with a ranch. She had to decide whether or not to sell, and she was going to go visit her relatives in the city. And she just thought, I'm going to believe that my days are well planned. She wasn't a churchgoer, but she was realizing God had designed her life after her husband's passing. So
Yeah,
just a little thought like that helped take off the limited label, and take her forward.
it does.
And I love it because it means every day is an adventure, whether you're at home doing the laundry or venturing forth. Like I've had some adventures today that just going to a coffee shop and talking to some 90-year-olds and going on and organizing my Christmas stash that had to be cleaned through. And it just brings a lot of joy when you get little examples of memories and see them in a different light.
Mm-hmm.
But
It does.
I think my favorite thing about thinking about your concept of re-examine the labels you've had is I personally serve in business at a college on church and nonprofit boards, and people always want to peg me like she's the businesswoman or she's the donor or she's the youth worker, and so I paused in 2009. The Holy Spirit said, just create your resume and then look what the theme is. And it was really all about making an oasis in any type of meeting at any time, a place of peace and connection with God. So that made it just integrate so much better. And I didn't feel jerked around by being labeled one or the other. Because if I saw myself published as a business owner, I thought, yeah, that's just a little part of me, and not the whole story. But I'm finding the biggest challenge is to help my own family understand who I am now and me ask them good questions. So I am praying about how to write and to whom and how to get it out. So
Yeah, that's a big thing. Is we all have something to share, story of our life and what the process has been and where we're going. And not everyone just is really excited to hear of your progress for a million reasons, right? But we need to stay grounded that we are moving forward.
Yeah. And that's where quiet people are helpful. And I am one by choice, because I love how just pausing and listening and holding space for people allows them to tell their story. And so one little thing I did just 2 weeks ago was write to my whole employee group, which is about 68 people, and say, I'm available when I'm in the building or for office hours or emails and Zoom calls, because I'm an owner that goes in and out a lot. And because I gave them that permission, people are stopping me in the halls and telling me more of their lives, and it's been extremely rich. So very important to me to not be just slotted in our work roles while we're here.
It is good.
Yeah, that's awesome. They're lucky. They're lucky to have an owner like you. It sounds like that's awesome.
Interaction's good.
And I had on today just because it says Hope Fueled, and it's from a woman, I think, who lives near Judy somewhere, who has created a whole planner based on being fueled with hope.
Yeah. We'll have to talk about that and see who she is. Maybe I can meet her.
That's awesome.
Well, ladies, I thank you for joining today and just exploring more on overcoming labels. That Label Breaker book is written by Crystal Travis. She has a Facebook page under that, and a website is crystaltravis.com. And you can always like and follow the Encouraging Conversations Facebook page. It's also on YouTube, so you can subscribe there, share with your friends, and we'll just see what more develops in the weeks that come. So thanks for joining us today. And I'm going to just pray for y'all. So Lord, I just pray for dreams to be released again, for labels to be seen as positive, that people will just dare to reach out to another to share the things that are on their heart so that they dare to take steps. In Jesus' name, we just say thank you for this time. All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, girls.
Nice to meet you,
Bye.
Nice to meet you, Jane.
Bye.
Bye.